It is April 3rd, 2022, and high school baseball is officially underway. Guys, are you excited? We've got Steve from Elkhart chiming in and Sweet Lou with that sweet lid you got there. Jeff, we got to start out by, you got to, if I'm hardy, one benefit of this show is, in my position is I get to talk about hats whenever I want to. And we got to talk about that lid right now. Tell me about that lid.
Well, I went in Friday and said, "Hey, I need a new hat," and Clayton was abide and got it. And I'm not quite sure. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm going to different angles to see if it does say Lafayette Jeff Broncos. It somewhat seems like it does, but I'm still trying to figure that out. But it is very unique, and real excited about this week. Jeff got a couple. We got a couple games under our belt, win and a loss, and I'm ready to go.
Now you saw a game this week. Tell me what was your highlight of the week this week?
Well, the highlight was Saturday. Lafayette Jeff we were supposed to be at Lafayette Central Catholic on Thursday. The game was kind of chilly, damp, and so the ads from both schools decided they'd move it to Loeb Stadium. And then when they got to Loeb Stadium about in the afternoon, both coaches said, "Hey, it's just too cold." So that game has been postponed. Indiana weather. So we started out with a triangular uh, type series at Loeb Stadium on Saturday, and just so happened to be Clayton Richard, our head coach, made his major league debut against his former coach, Hall of Famer Jake Burton, who is now coaching at Twin Lakes, and Jake came out on top by a score of 6-3.
I
Just
know
so
Jake's got he's got a lot of respect, obviously, for Clayton, but he didn't want to lose that game. I mean, that's the competitiveness in him right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, as I mentioned to Steve off camera, just happy anniversary to me. 46 years. We're the same woman today. So, honey, if you're watching or listening, I know you're watching TV, but anyway, I love you, and let's get 46 more. But anyway, Jake Burton just happened to be celebrating his 50th anniversary, and he commented about the fact that he couldn't find a better place to be on his 50th anniversary than around the diamond. So especially getting a victory.
That's well. First of all, you beat me to it. I was going to congratulate you on your wedding anniversary. I tell you, baseball people, baseball coaches. I'm outside looking in on this. I'm not a coach, but baseball wives, I'll tell you what, they are good people right there. They put up with long seasons and long days. So there's nothing better than a baseball wife. And I've known you long enough to know that you've got a good one if she's been around you for 46 years, buddy. I say that jokingly, of course, but. Steve, what was your highlight? That's a tough one to beat. 46-year wedding anniversary right there. But what was your highlight this week?
Well, my highlight personally was that I got to go to a game and I went to Griffith at Crown Point on Friday.
That was a cold one, wasn't
And
it?
I woke up Friday morning and I live in Elkhart, inch of snow on the ground. It's white. I'm thinking, okay, Monday I was going to go to a game, too cold, too wet. Tuesday, same thing. Thursday, more of the same. So I thought, well, I'm not going to go today. And then I find out, well, they're planning to play. They're moving to Legacy Fields in Crown Point, which has a turfed infield. It'll be a little bit cold, but that was a lot cold. But I went. Glad that I did. Glad I did. Crown Point. Steve Strayer went
Yeah.
into the Hall of Fame. In Indianapolis in January. He coaches the Bulldogs. They ended up winning 7-2. Beat Griffith, Brian Jennings, the longtime coach at Griffith, good dude. So that was a lot of fun. But my teeth were chattering as I was talking to you after the game. You didn't. I don't know if that came through, but
No, but I can
yeah,
tell.
I'm glad I got to go. And the other, if I can add the other highlight on the other end of the state, and I found out that same day, I wasn't there. I know that you mentioned this on air with Greg Rakestraw Friday night, that Joe Decker at Silver Creek. There you go. He got his 500th career victory.
That's right.
They were on a trip to Tennessee, and they split 2 games, and they won the game early in the day, 3-2, 500th victory. And his son Dominic struck out got a strikeout for the last out.
That's what I thought was really cool.
And if you hunt around on Southern Preps, Twitter page, you'll see a picture of him and his son and the game ball and the whole thing. So that's pretty awesome.
And I'm looking for that real quick because I got
milestone accomplishment, and it was just a fluke that I was kind of looking around and saying, there's got to be some guys getting close to like these milestone victories, and I think 500 is pretty significant. And I say, well, he came into the season pretty close to 500, and lo and behold, there you go.
Well, and I'll tell you, I want to do a couple things here real quick. I want to look on the on the webpage because we had a couple other milestone wins. I don't have them in pictures, but we had a couple other milestone wins. I think Coach Hannes had win number 250.
Coach Hannes has got, he got 250 this season. He's hit 250. Steve Sikotsis at Earlham has hit 200.
Yes.
Greg Goff at Purdue, he hit the 500 mark for his career.
Yeah.
Dave Schrag at Butler is at 850.
And someone hit 900 this week, I thought. Was it?
Well, it was 2 weeks ago. Mike Frame at
Frame. Okay. Yeah. Yep. That's right.
So, and Rich Maloney.
Frank,
I'm getting these stories out. I don't want to get too far ahead of.
No, keep running with this. Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about Ball State. Ball State lost today, but they had won 10 games in a row.
That's right.
Prior to that, and the Cards are 17-9. While that, when they had 10 victories, that was like the second longest active win streak at the time, and only Tennessee had a longer streak. And I think if Tennessee won today against Vandy, they're like 26-1 or something like that. So I would watch a little bit of that game last night.
That was we'll talk about the D1 scene here more in a little bit, but yeah, but
anyways, Rich Maloney, the Ball State coach, he needs 23 victories coming into the season to get 900 for his career.
Nice.
So he's 6 away.
Yep.
He's 6 away from 900.
Got to meet him just for just a brief passing moment. It was a kind of a neat moment for me. You know how I always talk about those 12-year-old kid moments. I'd never met Maloney. We'd shared emails a couple times, but he came up during the clinic there, and he was wanting some research on draftees from Indiana. So he came over, and we kind of figured it out real quick. That was pretty neat.
Yeah. Put the time in on that.
He was Coach Rich Maloney was coming to Baseball Across Indiana for research. I love it. That's almost makes what we do worth it. Hey, to talk about my week real quick, I had some fun. First of all, I put this poll out at the beginning of the week. Here's the results. Now, this is the compiled results from Facebook and Twitter, both. We had, I think, 65 people respond, which is pretty neat. And I tell you, some interesting because Andy Bennis and Lance Lynn started out like they were going to win it all. And I think it was Facebook, I think, that gave them no votes. And
without knowing exactly who voted and asking all the questions and stuff, and that's why this is fun. You don't have to know this, but it's like, what was the age and the background of some of these people? Because if you're younger,
right.
Maybe you don't know who Amos Russi and Mordecai Brown are.
And that's what exactly.
Carl Erskine and Don Larson. I mean, those guys were done playing, 50, 60 years ago, but they're more recent than those other two guys, even though Russi and Mordecai Brown are in the Hall of Fame, and Carl Erskine and Don Larson are in the Indiana Hall of Fame, but Russi and Three Finger Brown are in Cooperstown as well. But that's, we're talking about 100 years ago. And Andy Bennison, retired 10 years ago or whatever, and Lance Lynn's playing now. So I can see why they would get some love.
Well, but that's why I paired them. The question was, for those of you who didn't see this, the question was, if you're starting your all-time, all-Indiana starting lineup, what pitching tandem are you going to go with? Now, I couldn't put, 10 people on there. It only gave you, because Twitter and everything only gets so many characters. So I put them together in groups, and I grouped them with kind of what you were saying, Steve, kind of that age grouping. That's why I put Amos, and I always said, if you're going to go by nickname alone, Amos, Russi, and Mordecai Brown got to win this, because you got Amos, the Hoosier Thunderbolt, Russi, and you got Mordecai, Three Fingers Brown. For nickname's sake, they're the winner. But you got Carl Erskine and Don Larson, relatively same. LaTroy Hawkins and Tommy John. Tommy's obviously older than LaTroy Hawkins, but they're, I could have.
You were thinking in terms of Tommy John as a starter and LaTroy Hawkins, was a bullpen guy for the better half. He started out as a starter, but he was a reliever for the most of his 21 years.
That's why they were my pick.
That might have been something to do with it.
Yeah, well, that's why I put my pick in this was LaTroy Hawkins and Tommy John. Tommy John has the most wins of any pitcher on this list, I believe. Now, Mordecai Brown, I think, might have more. I'm trying to think. Because Tommy John was a lefty, so he was the most left-handed wins. That's what it was. I think Mordecai's got more.
288 games.
Right.
I know.
I thought we would have more Andy Bennis and Lance Lynn. And Facebook, Andy Bennis and Lance Lynn, they actually got 0. It was Amos Russi and Mordecai Brown, I think, got 0 on Twitter. So it was, Facebook.
Hey, speaking of Facebook, did you see Jay Lair saying, "Here's my office view," and he's got a video of Lance Lynn pitching a bullpen?
Yes.
In Arizona Camelback Ranch.
I saw it. And you mentioned Southern Indiana Preps. You mentioned earlier Southern Indiana Preps. I got to give a shout out to Kevin Harris because on the Indiana High School baseball and softball fan book or Facebook fan page, he does a really good job of keeping us up to date with all those Southern Indiana schools. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him.
I think I found out about something you're going to be talking about tonight that we're going to be revealing, and I give credit to Kevin for kind of bringing that to light.
Yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, I think it was one of his posts that I used. But yes, we're going to talk about that later. But, I talked about Jeff's hat earlier. One thing I want to talk about before we go on, and that is this hat that you see right here. I'm trying to turn my head right so you see that. Can you guys see that? That logo is going to be
trend of putting off center the logo.
I absolutely love it.
I just know that's been a thing here in the last few years.
I'm going to see if I can find it here real quick while I'm talking about it. That is Gandalf Bats. Gandalf Bats, of course, it's ran by Tom Gandalf, who is the son of Coach Gandalf, who is now at Cecina for years. He was at Center Grove, and I'm looking this up while I'm talking about it. But the reason I have this hat on is Gandalf Bats is going to be creating the 9 baseball bats that we're giving out at the end of the year for the BAI 9. That is the Baseball Across Indiana 9. That is our version of the top 9 players in Indiana. And I went and I talked to Tom this week. And matter of fact, let me bring this over here on screen. That hat right there, look at that. That is me and Tom Gandalf, where he makes his bats in Bargersville, Indiana. It's down there, Center Grove area. And I picked up the hat from him because he said he had a few. And behind you, you can't really see it under his left armpit right there, on the bottom of the screen, not those striped ones at the top. he has already started making the bats. So that is for our
Anybody who knows Dave Gandalf, you can tell that that's his son.
yeah,
You see the family resemblance, can't you?
exactly. It does. And so I had to throw that out there real quick. So on that, the reason, I wanted to bring that up early because we're going to have, first of all, talking about that a little bit further, it's not going to be all about stats. I brought up the wrong slide here. Let me bring up a different one here. There we go. Let's bring up this one. This is the current leaders according to Max Preps in Indiana. And as you can see, they're all Calumet Christian because Calumet Christian has 7 games. I think they're the only school in the state with that many games, so they're the only people that qualify. But they are 7-0. I got to give a shout out to Coach Landcrum. I might be pronouncing that right, Coach. I apologize. But they are starting out on fire. But the reason I bring that up is we want to see your stats on Max Preps. Like I said earlier, it's not going to be all about stats. It's going to be me, Steve, Jeff, as well as Chris and Mark. We're going to get Brian Abbott involved as well and talk to some of the coaches to pick the top 9 players in Indiana. But the 2 things I want to talk about from this, what you're seeing right here, is number 1, that hashtag BAI this week. Mention that again. If you want your players' stats or any highlight or any just cool thing that your team does, make sure you tag BAI this week on Twitter or Facebook so that we can see the standout players. We want to get the true top 9 players in Indiana to get one of these baseball bats, and the top player in Indiana that we choose will be called the captain. In this show, I call Steve Craw our captain because he's our MVP, and I say that every week, and I stand by it. But our captain is going to get a special one. So make sure you tag BAI this week and get your stats in Max Preps. So moving along, let's look at some of the other highlights from this week. I put this slide up there earlier. This is a compiled. This is also from Max Preps, but this is Ks per inning pitched. I didn't want to do just strikeouts because, a lot of people had more innings than others, but this is strikeouts per inning pitched. And look at that Riley Thomas right there, senior for Calumet Christians, 2.5 strikeouts per inning. That's pretty solid. Riverton Park, got to give a shout out to them. They're going to be strong this year. Hunter Collins is another senior, 2.4. Dylan McDaniel of Shenandoah at 2.4. Carter Tim, another guy at Calumet Christian. I think they've been all over the place. Then Tyler Kellett, the junior from Sullivan, with 2.1 strikeouts per game. We're going to use a lot of Max Preps stats this year, just because it's a easy way for us to get graphics like this. So again, make sure you get them in Max Preps. Moving along here with some more highlights, got to mention Seth Hogue here became the 2nd player in university baseball history to homer in 3 consecutive games. That was pretty stellar. Got to give a shout out. Looks like his dad there posted that. I think Dave Carson also posted the same thing. Of course, Dave is another one of the admins on the Indiana baseball and softball fans Facebook group on Facebook, or obviously on Facebook. Got to give a shout out to him too, because he covers a lot of baseball in Indiana, or tags everybody appropriately. Another shout out to Lawrence North here. They won the Royal Classic with a comeback victory over McCutcheon and again over DeKalb. So they beat a couple good teams right there. They're looking good with some stats you see there. Kobe Stevens had a double and a home run. Trevor Jones batting .600 with 2 doubles. Then look at right there, the next one. Jake Winsenry. Jake, I'm probably butchering your name, buddy. I'm sorry. But that's right. I had a double and 3 big flies right there. 11 ribbies. Man, that is strong. I tell you what, this first week, we have been getting a lot of home runs. I didn't do a tally on home runs for a stat yet this week, but I promise you I'll have it in there next week. Got to mention the hot dogs, one of the best baseball hats in all of the world right there. But they had a strong win over Lafayette Central Catholic, 1-0 in 10 innings. Had to throw that one up there. That was a big win for them. Had to throw this one up there. Speaking of good baseball hats, let's look at that hat for a second first. That's one of my favorite hats right there. But we at the show, we've talked about this a few times. We love the neat awards that teams have, and baseball and Batesville gives out the bowling pins. So I had to give a shout out to them. Moving along, Western Boone, I like it when teams do this. I've seen a lot of teams do this. Weibo gives out the game sheet for the player of the game. And Weibo Star 7, I don't know your name, bud. Sorry. That's your Twitter hashtag. But we had to give a shout out there because we like the awards like that. And memorize.
First year as head coach.
That's right. That's right. While we're on this slide, let's talk about, there's a few new coaches out there this year. And I was trying to pull up my list. We have him, and Steve helped me out with some of the other new coaches this year.
Well, I was also going to talk about at Linton Stockton, Jacob Harden. I mean, there are others. Those are two guys that I was going to talk about. Linton Stockton, is down there near Bloomington in that direction, and they were talking. When I talked about him in the preseason, he was talking about having a miner's cap or something, because they're the miners. There's coal mines in that community. There's a coal miner on their coaching staff, as a matter of fact, and as kind of the player of the game, or the player of the week in preseason. So that's a tradition. They had a huge. I mean, that's not a big school, but they had a huge crowd at their first home game. I saw the picture on social media. So, but Michael Nance is he's got a neat story, because he's like he's in law enforcement there in Boone County, but he's also involved in the baseball, and he wanted to give back, and he has a lot of good things to say about Rick Cosgray at Lebanon, because he played for him, and so he's creating new traditions there in Western Boone, which is in Thorntown, Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah, they
new guys.
Another, and both programs too. I like what both programs are doing. Coach for Linton Stockton's reached out to me. We've talked a little bit. I want to make sure I catch them here either this week or next. They're definitely on my radar.
You saw the hat, didn't you? The new hat?
Absolutely.
Did you get one already?
I haven't got one yet, but that's one of the guys I talked to, and I told him, I was like, we're going to have
an of the hat was like I talked to him about this when he was designing it, and he was going to get the miner's face with a beard. And if you've seen Jacob Harden, it kind of looks like him. But he got a graphic artist involved, and it's pretty cool. It's on the back of the hat, and I think it's got a L or something on the front.
It's very cool. I've reached out to him. Matter of fact, I was going to look at my Twitter messages real quick, because we had a pretty good Twitter conversation about that hat. Absolutely love it. I think I like it right now.
I don't want to forget now, Clayton Richard, new coach at Lafayette Jeff.
Right. I would try to pencil up that. Yeah.
Jeff, have you had a chance to have you had a chance to talk to him yet? As far as because I saw one quote from a newspaper that said he didn't know, that he was nervous and anxious, didn't really know how much he was going to be into it. At one point, this is obviously before he took the job, but after he got hired and as things are going on now, he said he's more excited about this baseball season than he's ever been about baseball. And this is a guy that played professional baseball. Have you had a chance to talk to him yet and sit down with him and talk about the season?
No, I tried to do that yesterday, and everybody was pretty excited about the win over the 13-0 win over Kankakee Valley. He said he'd try and get with me later, but a little bit different. He's not in the third base coaching box like most high school coaches are. Jake's been in there for probably as long as Jake Burton has been in the third base coaching box probably as long as he's been coaching, but Clayton's in the dugout. He's got a couple assistant coaches doing there, so that's a little bit different.
That's the college model.
Yeah, and also the kids are pretty slim and trim as far as their hair on their head. He went to a parents' meeting a couple weeks ago, and I was pretty impressed the fact that he wanted to hair off the ears. And so if you guys haven't seen basketball games this year, you'll see it in baseball. There's an awful lot of, there haven't been many barbers in any of these baseball teams' dugouts very, very much this season. There's a lot of hair floating around, Dan.
That is a good point.
Didn't we talk about that when we were at the state clinic about maybe making a, as a matter of fact, I saw some coaches that were letting the thing flow.
Yeah, I know.
We have a coach division too.
Yep. We won't.
You never would have seen back when Jake Burton started.
We won't.
You would have seen that kind of. Well, I tell you who's got the.
Well, we don't want to mention any names, Oak Hill, but
right, I wasn't going to say anything.
No, exactly. Well, I saw a picture there.
Coach Webster, the senior,
I saw a picture.
Had quite a lot more than his son,
He did. I saw a picture this week of, of course, a lot of teams did traveling. They were going down south in Tennessee and everything. Matter of fact, that's kind of the next slide we're going to talk about here a little bit. But I saw a picture of one team in the bus, and I won't mention their name, but it looked like it was 1975, with the hair, of course us old guys here, we're all shirt tucked in with the dad shorts and the dad, all that.
I think the truth is that none of us could grow our hair that long anymore if we ever could,
Well, it doesn't look too good gray either, but the coach at helped me out with the coach at Vincennes Lincoln, or is it Reveille? It's Lincoln. Vincennes Lincoln. Who's the coach of Vincennes Lincoln? Hutchins. Yeah, Coach Hutchinson last year. My hair is, I wear a hat all the time, and my hair is I'm a silver fox. I don't even know what that means. It's silver hair. My wife called me that once, but my hair is silver white.
It's a product that you can wipe on your hair. Makes it look dark, but who are you fooling at this point, right?
Yeah. Well, Coach Hutchins, that's why I got to give it to him. Coach Hutchins, he's like, hey, I don't, he's gray hair like me too, and it was down to his shoulders, so he's rocking it. He's doing it better than I could. But matter of fact, by the way, this week in baseball across Indiana for the past 5 minutes, we've been talking hair. You get it all on this show. We cover, there's no stone unturned, buddy. We cover everything. So, but what I was going to say was, I think you saw some of the Hardy the Hat Guy posts from a year and a half ago where I had the beard. I was trying to rock the Tucker Barnhart beard, but it was, Hardy the gray beard.
I thought you were been hot.
Yeah, with the gray beard there. Okay, back to baseball. We're, we talked about everybody traveling this week. I like this picture right here. This was Alexander Monroe. They had a pit stop at Louisville Slugger Factory Museum there just across the Ohio River. And I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of pictures. I kind of ran out of time, but I was going to put a lot of pictures. Just a lot of people, a lot of coaches creating great memories this week, with all the traveling they're doing. They're stopping and they're going out to eat as a team. So tipping my cap.
Weibo was going to the Tennessee Vandy game today.
Yeah. So, that is.
I saw a few pictures of that.
Just some great memories that these coaches and the parents are creating there. So I got to tip my cap to them. We got to throw this one out here. Jake Hooker, Grand Slam at University with their win over Friendship Christian down in Tennessee, like we were talking about. Here's another, boy, you talk about pitching performances.
Okay.
No, I'll go back. What were you going to say?
Oh, it looks like the big black monster there at Westfield.
That's down in Tennessee, though. That's they had a pretty good trip.
Yep. Yeah, they're on the road. Never mind.
I think they went.
I thought the grass was too green to be in Westfield, but
I tell you, and I've been looking at the stats. I've been looking at the stats of all the teams that traveled down to Tennessee this week, and I think with everybody, don't quote me on this because I might have missed a few teams. That's why I didn't put it on here. But by my count, there were only 2 losses for all the teams that went to Tennessee. 2 losses total. So that's pretty strong.
I know that's just a small sample size that I know about. Western Boone went 2-1. And
Then
I know
maybe-
I don't think Andrea might have won all its games
Yep.
when they went down there.
And I think
So-
Fisher's won all of them.
Fishers, yeah. So
Yeah. So, well, it might have just been that West.
I know Coach De La Garza isn't on tonight, but we've been kicking around the idea about how far can you travel, and that might be a topic for another day. But
Well, I tell you, I'll be honest with you, I just about headed down to Tennessee today to try to catch some of the final ones. You know, everybody's coming back from spring break this week. I was going to throw this one up there real quick. Talk about a pitching performance. This Arjun Loth, and Arjun, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. 6 innings pitched, 16 Ks. That was versus Waldron, I believe. I believe that was versus Waldron. So, man, and 0 base on balls, 0 in runs was stellar performance. That's probably the pitching performance of the week right there. But as we talk about pitching, just a couple more real quick. Got to see a few games this week. I saw Westfield versus Indianapolis North Central, and Culp was pitching for Westfield, and man, he was hitting. Matter of fact, PBR has him ranked with the highest velocity in Indiana for people that have been tested with PBR or have been evaluated through PBR. I can't remember what his total was, but he was the highest in Indiana. So you have him at Westfield. And this is why, if you guys heard me, I was on Indiana Sports Talk Radio this week with Greg Rakestraw. And that's one of the things I was talking about was I personally think, the season is very early, but man, that Westfield just looks so strong. You have Culp there that's just shooting cannons from the pitcher's mound. And then that doesn't even count Cade Stanifer, who is the Cincinnati commit. And Cade Stanifer of Westfield pitched this week, and per his dad, he hit 97 this week. I mean, he was low to mid-90s during the game. And then I guess per his dad, he hit 97 this week, and that is strong. I didn't know he had that kind of velocity. I knew he was strong. I mean, he's in the top 10 PBR for velocity, but I didn't know he had 97 in him. So that's definitely someone to watch. Of course, then I also saw, an interesting game this week that I saw was Center Grove at Columbus East. Yep. And just a back and forth game. Okay. The pitchers for Columbus East, and I have them, I think they pitched 2 juniors, 2 seniors, and a sophomore. And man, I call this the Sanford and Son pitchers because they had more junk. I'm talking curveballs. I mean, the ball was 90-degree angle. They had some control problems, which kept Center Grove in the game, to be honest with you. If they had a little better control, they may have beat Center Grove. Game got called for darkness at a 7-7 tie in the top of the 7th.
Well, if you got junk, but you can control it, you can do some stuff because, I mean, these guys want to get up there and rip a fastball.
Yeah. Well, and that's Center Grove's,
You're throwing that kind of stuff, mixing you in your fastball, you can be pretty effective. Out those strikes, though.
The best scouting I think I do is just kind of, nobody knows who I am when I come to the games, and I just kind of hang out. I find the dad section. Every high school game's got the dad section, and I go there and I just kind of listen. And I was standing around some of the Center Grove dads, and that was their take. This is an official scouting report. This is the dad scouting report from Center Grove, saying, if you got a pitcher that can, they just wait on the fastballs. So if you got a pitcher that's, they're looking for that high 80s, low 90s fastball. If you got a pitcher that can mix it up with the speed, throw some curves, Center Grove might have some problems. And that played out with the game that I saw as well. Center Grove hit the ball well when on fastballs, but there was a span there for Columbus East. I was watching for 3 innings. They had 2 fastballs that were thrown for a strike. So, but Coach Freezy's got to be happy about that at Columbus East because they start out with a strong game against Center Grove, a strong opponent. and they stayed right there with him. And he by design threw 5 pitchers. So, first game of the season, he's got to be excited about that. Speaking of pitchers, we got to throw this in here too. I'm always a big fan of high school teams that are giving back. And the South Bend St. Joe baseball team were helping out the Notre Dame softball team with a strikeout cancer thing there. So I had to throw that in there. Of course, Steve mentioned
that's there at the training facility at Four Winds Field where the South Bend Cubs play.
Yep, that's right. And Steve talked about that earlier. Had to throw this one out there as well. Gibson Southern, the question is, one thing I like to, when you're looking at preseason rankings, one of I think is a common trend that you can add to the equation of rankings is how good was the team's basketball team? How good was the team's football team? Because what you find at schools is you have a class that is blessed with a group of athletes that have been together for a long time, and if they have a good football season, that group of athletes is also going to play basketball, and they're also going to play baseball. Generally speaking,
winning becomes contagious,
right? So if you talk,
like you said, they're obviously athletically talented,
right?
You can do that.
Well, and we all know what kind of football season Gibson Southern had. So they're off to they're 4-0 on the season. They took the Vincennes double play tournament, 18-6 win over Martinsville 4A team, 9-5 win over Homestead. So just keep that team on the radar right there. They had a good football season, so that crew, they're still together. I don't know how many of the players that played football obviously are on the baseball team. I'm guessing there's a handful at least. And we talked about this earlier. This was the slide I was talking about where, right now it's all Calumet Christian for stat leaders in Indiana per Max Preps, but they're the only team with 7. I think Max Preps rankings requires you to have at least 6 wins. So if you go to Max Preps right now and look at their rankings, Calumet Christian's the only team listed, but that's why all their players are leading. But I got to give a shout out to Coach Landgren again. I'm sorry, Coach, again, if I'm butchering that name, because they are starting out 7-0, and they've played a lot of teams. So he is a newish young program. So it reminds me.
I don't think they're in the IHSA.
They're not. They're still not sanctioned IHSA.
But I don't think they're
right.
But they think that's their intent.
Well, it's a good format, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, where you have a lot of small Christian schools popping up all over the state. And they have a formula that I like, and it's also a formula that like Indianapolis Kings use. Indianapolis Kings is a homeschool baseball program based out of Indianapolis area. I think it's mainly southeast Indianapolis, but they can pull kids from all over the state. And because of that, they too have started strong. And there's another
That's like Indy Genesis is a brand new program.
Indy Genesis, yep.
They just adopted baseball. They have had basketball and soccer teams, but it's a network of homeschoolers playing sports.
Well, and this Calumet Christian, they also take in homeschool kids as well as kids at other small schools in the area that don't have baseball. They can bring them in as well. And that's not, breaking any rules. They're still kind of young, but I like that template. I like that format that they're using. I mean, and Coach Lankren, he's big in the travel ball scene as well. So, I mean, he's not just doing the, and this will segue into, something I want to talk about before we mention our player of the week. Talking about Calumet Christian there, it's some people say, well, it's a small program. It's just a dad leading the players or something like that. So it's possibly, it's just a daddy ball situation. And we had some news about that this week. Steve, you want to talk about it? You want to weigh us in on why I'm talking about daddy ball right now and what that means?
Yes, I do. USSSA, which is a travel ball organization. It's like the United States Specialty Sports Association, been around a long time. They decided to make a rule where you could not coach your own son. And I'm not exactly sure why they, got to investigate this a little more about why they made that decision. But can you imagine if you took away all the dads that are coaching their sons, that would eliminate a lot of teams and combinations. Now, daddy ball use that term, that has a negative connotation with a lot of people because they think, well, they're only doing it so their son can play, or we're going to create this team in the travel world or the little league world so my son can play shortstop and bat third, or we're gonna go coach the high school team so my kid will get to play. And I'm sure that goes on in some cases, but they decided they wanted to eliminate that perception. That's what I'm seeing, and they're not letting that happen. So Coach De La Garza was here because we're all the time sending messages back and forth to each other, and he said that rather than doing that, maybe we should educate the fathers and get the coaches registered, which is a good idea for every coach at every level, below, probably every level, but especially the high school and the travel ball, because that way they've got some competence in what they're doing. I think part of that has to be vet them, give them a background check. So, they're going to be working with young people. So I think that's what you want your teachers doing. So why wouldn't your coaches be that way? So, but anyways, I thought it was interesting that USSSA decided that dads can't coach their sons. So I don't know if they're going to go find another organization, or they'll just, find a coach that doesn't have a son. I've always said, I'm kind of rambling here, but I've always said that you kind of know the commitment of the man or the woman in charge if he does not have a son or daughter on the team. But it's unrealistic to think that that's always going to be the case. Sometimes if they hang around and keep coaching for 20 years after their son or daughter graduated, then they're really committed to the program. But there's some fantastic coaches that had sons, daughters play for them. Sometimes they're the best player and sometimes they're not. But you would think that there are advantages to having your dad or your mother as the coach. You're going to be immersed in whatever sport that is.
Right. And I'll tell you what, that you hit at exactly my point and in all of this, which is there are, when you say the word daddy ball, first of all, just the word itself kind of, it makes you think of negative connotations. But there are two different perspectives. There's the perspective of, I'm just going to coach so that my son can play shortstop and pitcher, like you were saying. And obviously there are issues, that people, then you're probably cheating some kids. And I don't think anybody would argue that that's not a great thing.
And there's a perception that that's going on maybe when it isn't.
Right. Well, and that, and I'm going to talk about something similar for our final out. We haven't even talked college baseball yet. We're going to slam through college baseball here in a second. But the last thing I'll say about daddy ball is I'm going to tip my hats to all the dads out there that step up and are coaching because no one else will. With the travel ball scene, it's a little bit different. With the local rec league scene, with the Little League, Babe Ruth, American Legion, something, not so much American Legion, but Little League and Babe Ruth definitely, and other rec league formats is, most of the time the person coaching is a dad because those guys aren't getting paid. It's the guy that has the time to do it. And, anybody has a problem with that, I've got a problem with you. The dad that steps up to do it because it needs done, I'm tipping my hat to those. In the travel ball scene, it's a little bit different because, number one, there's money involved, and, no one wants that situation where a dad's coaching just to get his son to play shortstop and pitcher when other parents are dropping a few grand to get the best opportunity they can. So, this argument is as old as youth baseball. And I don't think we're going to solve anything, but we had to bring it up. Jeff, you got any thoughts of your own? I mean, this is a pretty political topic almost. Some people, people are polarized on it. So, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on it from your days in the baseball scene, coaching and playing and everything else you do in baseball?
Well, I'm kind of glad you brought it up because I think about my dad because I did play for my dad. Both my brothers did, but I think back then, I'm 66. It was about 55 years ago when I was in Little League Baseball and Pony League, and the fact that, there were a lot of dads, like you said, that if they didn't step up, then there weren't programs. I mean, my dad bought equipment. A lot of people didn't know that some dads buy equipment for other kids that don't have it. Mm-hmm. And, I again agree with what you said, Dan. Just you got to take your hat off to some of these dads that are stepping up. And are there abuses going on? Yes, there are, but I think they're kind of few and far between. Mm-hmm. I was very fortunate. My dad was a catcher in high school, and my brother ended up being a catcher like his dad, but I ended up being a pitcher and a left fielder. So, but I just want to say I think I played because, and people knew it, I played because I was good enough to play. There are, like I said, there are those abuses, but those are few and far between. I agree with you. We need to take our hats off to the dads.
Well, and speaking of that, here in a few episodes away, we got a few episodes. When is Father's Day? I don't even know. Is it June? I don't even know off the top of my head. But anyway, we're having we've already been doing some recording for a Father's Day special, and it's pretty cool. We've got some well-known big leaguers that we've talked to with their dads. So that's going to be an exciting episode coming up. But our Baseball Across Indiana Player of the Week, Steve, I'm going to let you announce this. I think you had a little insight on it. And I don't think we have any argument on this, on who was the Player of the Week, our first ever Player of the Week.
Evansville North, Camden Decker. Have a day, Camden Decker. Have a couple of days. Have a 3-day. In his first 3 games, he had 6 home runs. Now let's say they played 27 games. He's on pace to shatter all the records, but. Yeah, Coach Jones down there has got to be loving that. And shout out to Southern Indiana Preps again. If you go online or if you go on PBR, you can see them hitting these taters. 6 home runs in 3 games, including 3 in the first game they played.
Right.
So that's just. Which would you say, Dan? Stupid numbers?
Yeah, that is stupid numbers.
10 RBIs, 9 runs scored, and that's just in 3 games.
Well, and I'll tell you
you can't ignore that that kind of production.
Right. And again, I want to mention his name there.
He's going to the University of Central Florida.
That's right. UCF. I got to give a shout out to, I'm looking for his name. Yeah, Kevin Harris. I want to mention his name again because he was integral in getting that information out there. I also want to mention that I'm going to mention this for them. There's a Twitter feed here. Let me throw it on the screen here so everybody can see it. At Bat in the Summit City. Their Twitter handle is 260 at bat. 260, I believe, is their the area code up there. At Bat in the Summit City, they are going to run a Player of the Week in the Fort Wayne area as well. So I want to mention that. So there's their. I'm going to scroll up here a little bit so you can see their Twitter feed right there. I want to mention that. So coaches up there in the Fort Wayne area, make sure you send your highlights to them as well, because they're going to start having a player of the week in the Fort Wayne area.
Jeff Mahoney for Summit City Sports is involved with that.
That's right. Had a talk with him.
Too, and they cover all kinds of sports, but baseball they do a good job of.
Yeah, they absolutely do. I just wanted to mention that to real quick, just because they're going to be, they're going to be having that Player of the Week award, and I want to make sure people in the Fort Wayne area, and they've got some. The person that gets their Player of the Year gets some really neat awards. So I want to make sure everybody sees that. Guys, let's hammer through the college scene real quick before we wrap things up with the final out. Let's go first to the D1 scene right here. Ball State with another good week. Steve, you mentioned them at the beginning. They broke, how many in a row did they win before they finally got a loss there?
They won 10 in a row, and that was one of the longest streaks in the country this year so far. And something, I don't want to get too carried away, but something I've noticed on social media, and it's funny because over the years, people doing what I do, reporter that's like, why are they taking team photos when it's not a championship? But they've got a tradition there. Every win that they get, they take a team photo. So they got 17 wins. So I think their idea is, I'm going to talk to Coach Maloney about this at some point. They want to collect as many team photos as they can, I guess. Plus, it's they emphasize team, and that was a team effort. I mean, they might had one of their players or more than one of their players have a particularly good game, but there's a lot of credit to go around. So that's on the D1, and also when we're talking about D1, Notre Dame.
Yeah,
they went to Florida State.
Yep,
and they're a top 5 team, and
they're number 5, and they swept them.
Yeah, Link Jarrett played at Florida State, and Mike Martin Jr. is the coach, and he was his teammate. So they were talking about that a lot on the broadcast.
Well, let's go to D2. We're going to wrap things up here with a quick D2, D3, NAIA, and JUCO roundup. By the way, folks, if you don't see it real quick, down there at the bottom, that is the high school baseball schedule for next week. USI went 2-3. They're still at even. They went down to even. I think they were a game or two above 500 last week. Now, these don't count Sunday's games today. Purdue Northwest, I think I got that wrong. Purdue Northwest 0-0. I think they're 10-7, I believe is right. But
yeah, they didn't get to play this week because of weather.
That's right. Franklin with another strong week as we go to D3 here. Hardy the Hat Guy with another air there. Let's change this real quick. Live on air. There we go. How about D3? There we go. D3. Franklin 4-1, 17-5. What were you saying there, Steve?
Oh, I was just telling you they're 4-1, 17-5. I guess in that regard, they got the best week, and they got the best overall record in D3 in Indiana.
Yep, and they're looking strong for sure. Let's go to NAIA. Hey, I got that tag right. Tough week for USF for sure, but Huntington, they are turning things around. They pick up over 500 with the week at 3-1, 14-12. Yeah. I believe this is the first week they've been over 500, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. And look at IWU. IWU was 6-1. They won 5. They won 5 in a row, and.
Yeah, strong week for Indiana Wesleyan as they go over 500 in a strong fashion. Let's look at the JUCO scene here.
Bethel had a 4-week win. I mean,
they sure did. How did I not highlight that? That's air number 2 on Hardy the Hat Guy.
Taylor 5-1. So it's one of these deals where a lot of those schools there are in the Crossroads League. Not all of them, but.
Right.
Crossroads, they beating up on each other. So if somebody gets hot, then there's
right.
St. Francis and Taylor were at the top of the heap, but St. Francis had a rough week and Taylor had a good week. So
yep. So that's a fun. That's going to be a fun race. We said that at the beginning of the year. That race is going to be fun to watch down to the finish. Ivy Tech with 0-2, Ancilla 1-3. and Vincennes at 0-2. Rough week for our JUCO teams here in Indiana. Guys, before we pass things over to me for the final out, any parting thoughts on this week before we go to our final out for the week?
Well, I just want to mention Lafayette Jeff's schedule. I'll be going to, we'll be hosting Logan Sport on Tuesday, and we go to Logan Sport on Wednesday, and then big weekend next weekend, Friday night. Lafayette Jeff has the annual Joe Heath Classic. Joe Heath, a former athletic director, principal, and basketball coach at Lafayette Jeff. And we'll be hosting Crown Point on Friday night. And then Saturday, early mid-morning on Saturday, we'll host Huntington North, and then we'll cap off our 3-game weekend with as we host Chesterton. So we'll get some teams from up north. And I was telling Steve, Dan, off camera, I'm planning on next Sunday, big series, not basketball now, but the Hurrian Hoosiers of Indiana will be headed to West Lafayette for a 3-game series, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm planning on attending that game again in Indiana, weather permitting. Hopefully it'll be nice. Next Sunday, I'm planning on taking in that game at Alexander Field in West Lafayette.
I'll tell you, one game I want to highlight is Gary West versus East Chicago. Gary West did not have a baseball team this year, and I do not have a Gary West hat. Gary West, let's make that happen. Let's wrap things up. What's that? Go ahead, Steve.
Troy Hawkins said he could hook you up.
Troy, if you're listening, buddy, hook me up. I need that Gary West hat right there. As we wrap things up for our final out,